This episode of Q Point Podcast is pre-recorded, produced and sponsored by Corenna and Quirk, broker at Next Home Experience.
Different views.
I know your story.
From different Q's.
Incredible job.
He's David Quirk.
You brought it up.
And she's Corenna Quirk.
Imagine.
This is
Q Point.
Thank you for joining us for part 2 with Republican gubernatorial candidate David Jones. You own and operate a company that's been in business since, 1819?
1819, yeah. 1 year before Maine became a state. The F.O. Bailey Company. It's the oldest continuous running company in the state of Maine. There's only 72 companies in the entire United States that can say that. And I got a letter from President Trump congratulating me on the 200th birthday of the company. It's an amazing company. It's the second oldest auction house in the entire country. There's only one that's older. It's Freeman's in Philadelphia. So there's different factions. I'm also a licensed auctioneer. I don't do much with it, but I want to make sure we keep that mantra of the second oldest auction house in the entire United States. But I sell real estate, and we do residential and commercial real estate. I've got about 25 brokers that work for me. I've been doing mostly high-end residential and commercial properties. And my wife does the inside. I say she sells the inside, I sell the outside, and she does the antiques. She has about an 8,000 square foot gallery down there in Falmouth. So we have 12 auctioneers in the family. So I'm related to the McInnes family. I don't know if you know that clan. Paul McInnes, John McBarbara, Sarah. She's the baby of 10. All right. So it's an old company. It's a great company. I've got some great people working for me. 13 years ago, Tom Gadboy started with me. He's a great broker, one of the best in the state. He really works hard, sells a lot of real estate. And my daughter, Lauren, I've got Rob Oldacci. You probably know Rob. He's, on the other side a little bit. It's funny because we go into a meeting. Everyone knows our politics. They precede us. It's like a frickin' frack kind of thing. We get comments all the time because we sell a lot of real estate up this way and primarily Republican up here. That's the way it is. We did a closing for the Robbins family over in Eastport. We were at the closing table, and he was the only Democrat in the table. Josh Tardy was there and everybody else, right? And they were just chiding him a little bit. And Cindy Robbins, Cindy, we sold her place for her, Cindy's restaurant, and it's now a none such. It's kind of fun owning a company like F.O. Bailey. I'm a fourth owner in 200 years, so it's not like a lot of people have owned the company. And you're actually chosen. That's how you end up owning. You don't competitively bid for this company. Each person, successor to the original owners, the Baileys, has been chosen by the previous owner. So Neil Allen was the second owner, and that was Tom Allen's grandfather, Senator Tom Allen. Then he made a deal with Joy Piscopo. And I had known Joy through the auction business because of my wife's family. They're all auctioneers. So we knew her in Florida. And then I knew her up here. And I always kept in touch. And I said, Joy, when you're ready, I'd sure like to be the next guy to run F.O. Bailey. And she's like, we'll see. And then one day she called me up and said, I'm ready. Let's do it. So I took it over. She hadn't really pushed the real estate side of it. Real estate's all I've ever done. I had a very large construction company. I used to build high-rises, malls, shopping centers. I started off from scratch, by the way, with no help from anybody. No government assistance, nothing. It was just hard work. And I always say the only difference between me and my buddies is I went to the bank and they went to the bar. A couple times I went to the bar, had some fun with them, but it wasn't a regular thing for me. I like working. So I built that business up. I had 1,100 people on the payroll back then. If you've been to Florida, I built the Disney Caribbean Beach Resort in Orlando. That was 2,133 units. And I did Williams Island, Fisher Island. I did the Gardens Mall in Palm Beach. I did Glen Eagles Polo Club. There are just a few, but there were thousands of units that I built. And it was fun. I'm an entrepreneur. I went to the Hard Knocks University. What's the matter, you? We had just accumulated knowledge over those years. I made every mistake in the book you could ever make, and I paid for every one of myself and ended up where I am today. With F.O. Bailey, it's a great company. The people that work with me, I don't recruit them. They ask if they want to join, and if I like them, yeah, okay. If they fit the mold, I could be bigger. I could be Sotheby's. The name is stellar, and the history is incredible. I always say that Sotheby's tries to be what F.O. Bailey really is, because they're only 100 years old. We're 200 years old. But they're good brokers, too. I have a lot of Sotheby friends. But in this state, it's a great name. It's a great state. The people are fantastic. When I did that interview with Steve Robinson, the question he got me that sticks with me through the hour and a half that we did was, do you really think Maine could be saved? And I said, 100%. And he said, why is that? I said, because the people. They're really good people here. They believe, they have pride. The second district, you've got a lot of really hardworking people up here in the second district, loggers and the paper mills, everything about Maine. It's here, the fabric, the desire to have pride in what you do and the ability to use your hands and your brain. I'm a big vocational training guy. I think vocational training is like so important. We need carpenters and plumbers, electricians, auto mechanics. We need these people. You can't get staff. It's just bizarre. You're in the auto business. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
My father was service manager for Pontiac when I was a kid, and he used to give me like generators and alternators and carburetors to rebuild them. And I'd do the rebuild kits, and I'd get $5. I don't know what he was getting paid, but he'd pay me $5. I was happy as hell to get a $5 bill. So I got to where I was mechanically inclined, and I've ended up racing cars and building race cars and crashing a few up. As a kid, you do that stuff. But you can't get service techs. It's hard. I bought a car, I won't say where. Then you get 2 oil changes that you get when you buy the car. But I haven't been able to use them because I got to wait a month. I don't wait a month for anything. I want it done now. I can't plan a month ahead. I don't do that. It's not the Dave Jones MO. Plan a month ahead to get an oil change. So guess where I end up? Prompto or one of the other ones. Even that, there's lines after lines after lines. So you wonder where all the talent is. When I was in the construction business, if someone came to me and said they were a Mainer, that's all they had to tell me. Put your tools on. Let's go and see what you can do. A little different today. You know how hard it is. It's really hard.
So if you do become governor, what are your top 3 priorities that you would just dive right into?
Well, when I become governor, we like to use that power of positive thinking. I think number one, because it encompasses everything that goes on in the state, is energy. We have to have good energy policy. We got this 100-watt, megawatt cap. Why? What does that do? How does that benefit Mainers? Open it up a little bit and increase it. It seems to me like the simplest thing to do, and I'll figure out why they haven't done it, and we'll figure out how we can. I'm big on nuclear. Everything I've been reading right now, small modular nuclear devices, SMNDs, they're everywhere. France is doing it. Why are they doing it and not us? I don't care who I talk to, what walk of life you're in. Energy's at the top of your list. Open up the mail and look at your electric bill, and there's subsidies for failed alternative uses. I'm not blowing the tops of mountains off and putting windmills on top. Done. No money's coming out of Mainers' pockets unless it's private enterprise that thinks they can make money. Well, so be it. They can do what they want. But blowing the tops of mountains off, I got a problem with. And then the solar fields. Where are all the tree huggers? When I was growing up, they were tying themselves to trees. Now they just tear them down and throw solar fields up, 100 acres, 200 acres of solar fields. They don't give a darn about those trees anymore. And how are we going to dispose with them? I'm not against alternative energy sources, but it's got to make sense. And 2 and 2 has to add up to be 4. We just need to make sure that when we reach in our pockets, we hand somebody our money, that we're getting something of equal or greater value. Natural gas. Why don't we have a pipeline through here? Why can't we just sit down with these states? And Pennsylvania's got a boatload. We can have a pipeline through here, through Massachusetts. We bring it up through the states. We all benefit, right? If we just do this, it's the most logical, practical means. We lost Dragon Concrete because of natural gas. How stupid is it to lose a company like that? How many jobs did we lose? How much tax did we lose? And besides that, the utilitarian use of that company. Why did we allow it to happen? So this ideology of, well, we're going to be everything electric. Well, where are you going to get electric from? Our grid is horrible. Our transmission lines, are we investing in it through the solar fields? How about taking those solar field transmission lines and tie a nuke on the end of it? Now we got something. I don't know what the capacity is. The idea is that we know the technology works. For 50 or 60 years, they've been using SMNDs on submarines. Have you ever heard of an incident? No. Why? Because there weren't any. We just got to take a logical approach. Everybody I talked to, I said, did you vote for having that subsidy on your electric bill for the solar fields? Hell no. People were roaring about this. You look at our electric bills. 115% increase in the past 7 years. 36% increase in the past 12 months. 36%. You look at that map I posted on my Facebook page. A little map, Maine's got its own color, red. And the second most high increase, I think was Connecticut, was 18%. And everything else was a fraction of that. But Maine, 36%. Did your salaries increase by 36%? Your profit increased by 36%? No, we don't have those increases. And how do we afford them? And who pays for it? They tax the working class people. The working class people think, down with the man, down with the rich folk. Well, guess what? People with money invest money. People with money create jobs. If they lose on that investment, the government doesn't step in to help them. No, they lose the money. So they are entitled to a profit. That's capitalism. And maybe if we taught capitalism 101 to the general pop, that we would understand that we have to encourage people to invest in our state. Right now, we're not a business-friendly state. People won't come here. There's ways to get people here. I've talked to some folks, and there's things that are happening. If I become governor, scenery is going to change. We're going to be a business-friendly state. We're going to do everything we can to encourage people to invest and create the jobs that people want. We're losing our youth. They're moving out of the state. We're educating them, and then they leave because they can't live here. The average cost of a house is like $420,000. You know, you're in a real estate business, right?
Right.
It was at $250.
It was.
How long ago?
4 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Think about that. Now it's almost doubled in the price, and we have a shortage. We have an 86,000 home shortage. Are we doing anything to encourage that growth? No. Who's going to come here and build houses when there's no jobs? And if you go to build houses, you get hit with impact fees. They're worried about the schools growing and the cost of educating the children. And I want the kids to get educated. But the bottom line is we have to encourage people to live here. They have to be able to afford it. I think at one time when I moved here, I've been here 28 years now, full-time, 40 years part-time over on Bryant Pond. At that time, I think there was 26 or 2,700 multi-millionaires, back when millionaires actually meant something, because now you could be a millionaire. It's worth about 10 cents on the dollar. And now we're down to like 260. They left. But you know what? They still own the property, but they're residents of Florida. 181 days. They don't pay any tax. It's been proven in my lifetime. Every time they've lowered taxes, the government had more revenue. Why is that? Seems crazy, right? Oh, you get triple economics, circular economics, call it what you want. But you get people that come around and they spend their money. You get a paycheck today, and then you go and you pay your bill here, and then that person pays their bill there. It's capitalism. The idea that everybody gets a trophy and we all make the same money, live in the same house, it doesn't work. Energy is so important to everything, right down to buying a loaf of bread, a gallon of milk, transporting it. It's everything. Oil. I tell people this all the time. If you can't fill your car up every time you stop at a gas pump, if you can't fill your oil tank up every time the oil truck pulls up, if you can't go to the store and buy the foods that you want to buy when you want to buy them, and if you can't take a vacation for 1 week a year with your family, then you're in economic prison, bottom line. And every time our government taxes the people that work, and taxes and the things they've come up as of late are insane, they put them deeper into economic prison. It's oppression. Taxes are oppressive. Money's better off in the Mainers' pockets than it is in the government's pockets. So we've got to really curb spending. I'm going to do things the way they're supposed to be done. I'm going to look at every single thing we spend. I got people lined up already to go to work.
Did I hear you plan on your own DOGE?
DOGE. Yes, 100%. It's so important. Anyone who would be against the DOGE needs to get a reality check. It's unfathomable to me. The idea that David Jones wants to make sure that Maine's government is spending their money the way they're supposed to. Government wastes money. Everything I look at, anytime I've ever dealt with government in my life, and I've tried to minimize that as much as possible, I have seen such waste. I look at things and their costs. When Trump became president the first time around, he negotiated with Boeing and saved $4 billion on the planes. There's just so much waste because there's so much graft. It's such a thick bureaucracy. It's graft. Bureaucracy is graft. Follow the money and you find out what's really going on. Follow the money. The power, the money, that's where it comes from. And where does the money come from? Every one of us. Every time we pay taxes, we give it to them in good faith. Oh, here, take it. Don't bother me anymore. I don't want to be audited. And then they spend it on stupid stuff. So, yeah, we're going to have a Maine DOGE, 100%.
So I don't have to tell you, because I know you've hosted the show a lot with Bill Diamond. Obviously, he passed away, and we just did a fundraiser with him at our Augusta Ford store for DHHS about foster kids dying. How could you help the state with that?
DHHS takes up about 38% of our biannual budget. It's a massive organization. It's too big. And one of the things I talked to Bill about time and time again was we got to break it up. So at the debate the other night, Ray asked this question, and he's like, who would you hire to be head of DHHS? I said, it's not that simple, because we're not talking about DHHS as it is today. I would separate child care services immediately that day. If it took executive order, get the legislators to get behind and make it law, whatever we have to do, we're going to do. But we got to separate that. There's been 149 children murdered just since Janet Mills has been governor. Has she mentioned one word about it? And then they come up with that phony report saying everything's just hunky-dory, that they did nothing wrong, that they followed all the protocol. Well, maybe your protocol's wrong. There's 149 dead kids sitting in the ground today as a result of whatever it is you've done. So I think we separate child care services immediately. Now you're talking about two people. Now let David lift up the hood and see what all this money's being spent on. And maybe we compartmentalize these things to a point where we don't need that person overlapping their responsibility here. Maybe DHHS ends up being 4 or 5 different entities, but with the focused goals and responsibilities. Like I used to help friends of mine that had in business. They would come to me because my company, I've always done pretty well with things. And they would say, can you help me with this? And I would go and I'd see if their employees and I would tell them, well, let's do this. So the ones that listened save money, and the ones that didn't ended up coming, I should have listened to you. So you got to look at this as what needs to be done. And what needs to be done is we got to make sure that no more children die. If one child dies, it's one too many. And I know stuff is going to happen because we have a drug problem. We have a mental illness problem. I've been touring the jails, and it's just unbelievable what I see. And they're acting as mental care facilities. It's not their job. They're supposed to help get dangers off the street, and they're supposed to have a place for them to go. We don't have any place for them to go. So we got rampant government. We got mental illness, and that's a DHHS thing. What's happening with that? You've got drug addiction. There's some problems. I will say this. I do not think Maine is a terrible place. We have issues that we have to deal with. We're still one of the safest states in the country. It is. But there are areas that we have troubles today. And with David Jones as governor, I guarantee you that local PDs, the Sheriff's Department, the state troopers, and the National Guard, if necessary, would do everything they can to clean the place up. The fact that a law-abiding citizen has to be worried about walking down the streets that they're paying taxes on to support is wrong. So if it's not safe, we have to find out why it's not safe. And we have to come up with a plan. I support law enforcement wholeheartedly. Without laws, we have nothing. I was really good friends with a guy named Barry DeLong. He was the sheriff of Somerset County. They're taking a bridge and naming it after him up in Bingham. But we really have to look at the DHHS and come up with a plan that says, all right, these are the issues. How do we solve them? And if the person sitting across from me at the desk doesn't have an answer, there'll be a new person sitting on that desk in a short period of time. I'm not one to sit around and let things fester. I see a problem. God's given me this ability to solve problems. I've always done it. I don't know where it came from. But if I see it, that's an obstacle. What can we do to make it work? Look at the reason, balance it out, try it. If it needs to be adjusted as you go down the road, you adjust it. But you've got to make moves to solve these issues that people are afraid about. Maine being what it is, it still is safe. And I don't want to be a fear monger. I think it's wrong. There's plenty of places we can walk in the woods. We can do what we want. We can go to the beach. It's still God's country. We only have 1.4 million people on 30,500 square miles of beautiful land. We know where the troubled areas are, and we'll sort them out. But I think when law enforcement's hands are tied, and when you have an organization like DHHS is not putting trained people on the street to do the job that they're supposed to, that's the problem.
As governor, what would you do differently than the current governor related to the illegal Chinese marijuana grows across the state?
Well, if you watch that report that was done with Steve Robinson and Tucker Carlson, you know there's a problem there. And this governor, for whatever reason, which is bizarre, I know her brother Paul was the one who was doing the closings on the real estate that they were buying. That needs to be looked at. The officers are told to stand down. They're not doing what I think should be done. I've been visiting law enforcement officers to try and get a handle because I want to know. So day one, I get the head of the Maine State Police, sheriff's departments. We sit down and we come up with that and local PDs and say, hey, look, guys, I want this to end now. Not a week from now. I want it to end now. We look at the evidence, make sure we can get in there and stop it. The idea that we're having these illegal grows and this triad, and it's basically slavery, what they're doing with these people that are stuck in there. This isn't what's supposed to be happening here. And if it takes the National Guard, it's game on. I am not going to stand there and let this go on any longer than I absolutely have to. And why Janet Mills hasn't done anything, you just got to scratch your head and say why. She's the governor of the state of Maine. And here in the United States of America, this should not be going on. The idea that she wants to make this a sanctuary state She wants to increase our taxes 8.94%. She wants to have boys and girls sports. The Commissioner of Education is saying, hey, we're going to teach DEI and CRT, and conventional learning is going to take a back seat. No way, Jose. This is going to be Maine people first in the laws of the United States Constitution and the Constitution for the state of Maine. David Jones will be the new sheriff in town, guaranteed.
Before we let you go, what differentiates you from the other candidates?
Well, we've been sitting here for an hour talking. See all my notes?
You have 0 notes.
Yeah, you're right. I say this. I did a debate the other night. I had 2 candidates on one side, 2 candidates on the other. One had a book, another one had a pile of pages. This one had a pile of pages. This one had a pile of notes. And I sat there with me. When I talk about something, I talk about it because I know about it. It's in my head. It's not on a piece of paper telling David Jones what to say. Now, I don't know what gave me that ability, but I have it. The mind to me is a really interesting organ. And a lot of times people think you might not be listening, but the brain's listening. And then next thing you know, someone comes up and has a conversation with David Jones about a topic that they don't think he knows anything about. And all of a sudden, David Jones starts talking about it. And David Jones says, oh, I didn't know I knew about that. But yeah, hey, let's talk. So I'm the guy that got out of high school, started my own business, 17 years old, scraped, scrapped, fought. I overcame every obstacle in life that you could ever imagine. I was never one to be addicted to drugs or drink. I partied like any other young man. 21 years old, started having babies. And once you have babies, then your whole world changes and you see how beautiful they are and you hold them in your hands and you think, wow, okay, I got a responsibility here besides me. You look at David, just a self-made guy who understands the value of friendship, understands the responsibility of having a family, and has always reached out to those who didn't have. I've always tried to help people. There was a kid years ago, this kid, Christopher, who had multiple sclerosis. His body was all bad, and his mom was a drug addict. It was bad, and her husband was in prison, but she worked for me, keeping time on one of my jobs. And one day, Christopher came into the office. I said, if you could get one thing in life right now, what would it be? And he just looked at me and he said, a wheelchair that fits my body. And I'm like, how about kicking me right in the stomach, And I'm like, what do you mean? And her name was Billy Joe, and she said, well, they make them and they mold them so when their body's deformed, it fits and they're not uncomfortable and having to have all these different pillows. She told me how much it was a lot of money. And I thought, oh, okay. I thought he was going to say he wanted a G.I. Joe or something, right? So I went on this quest, and I got the kid the chair. And I remember when I got him the chair, I was crying. So in life, you got to have compassion, you got to have understanding, you have the ability to go after something, make it happen, and then when you start something, you got to finish it. I'm not the kind of guy that quits. I don't know how these other candidates are. I mean, I know most of the other candidates. They're all good guys. I don't have anything against them. I just think I'm better qualified than they are. I've signed the front of the check my entire life. I know what it's like to be down. I know what it's like to be up. I've worked with people from all walks of life. I came from a family that barely had money. Mom would get our Christmas presents from the fire department. We'd get the government cheese. It was we actually got the government cheese and the powdered milk. And my father, he was a 12-year war veteran. He's got Bronze Star and all kinds of other decorations because he fought. And my mom was a waitress. And so you have this background. And for me, it was just the motivation to be something else. And I've worked my entire life to be who I am. I'm happy who David is. I enjoyed my life. I have a fantastic family, great kids, great grandkids. And I look at them and I say, what can I do? I'm doing it. I'm running for governor. I'm doing it because I love my family. I love the earth that we walk on. I love the great state of Maine. I've gotten to know so many people in the past 40 years here in Maine. Even though I'm not born here, I got here as fast as I could, all right? I love it here. I can live anywhere I want, but I choose to stay. My family is here. The last thing I want to hear is that my kids have to leave because they don't want to pay the tax or they want to make them get vaccinations that they don't agree with. I'm big on that. I think it's insane, but parents have rights. The government does not own our children. And right now the government educates our children, but they're not doing a good job at it. So if David Jones has the opportunity to step up and make those changes, David Jones is going to do it. I don't know what motivates other people. My family motivates me and God motivates me. Everything I do, it's the 10 Commandments are always in my head. They're my guardrails on what I do in life. And the business experience I have is invaluable. I've done more in my life than most people. I never imagined that I could build a 30-story building or a 1 million square foot mall or a resort like the Disney Caribbean Beach Resort. But I did it. Why? Made up my mind that I want to do it. I want to be governor. I want to get this done. I want to make Maine great again. And I'm going to do every damn thing in my power to do it.
If somebody wants to help your campaign, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Well, we have a website. It's Jones20262026.com. That has everything there is to know about Dave. If you want to know more, you can sign up as a volunteer. You want to donate, it's up in the right-hand corner. You just click on donate and give whatever you're capable of doing. I will say this, though. If it's a choice between making a donation between David Jones and one of the local candidates for House or Senate, I want you to give the money to the House or Senate person. I'll figure it out. That's what I do. I'll figure out how to get the money I need. But we got to make sure we get a hold of the House and the Senate if I'm going to be governor, because I don't want to sit there as a lame duck and not be able to get the things done that the people want me to get done. So it's so important that we elect House and Senate and David Jones as governor.
Thank you so much for coming in and spending some time with us. We do appreciate it.
Yes, we really appreciate you coming in. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. I could talk about this stuff all day long. Keep asking me questions because I know a lot about a lot of different things, and I'm willing to talk about anything anybody wants to talk about. Give me a question, you're going to get an answer. You might not like it, but it's my answer, and it's not going to change. Well, I don't stick my finger in the wind and see which way the wind blows. David Jones is a person of conviction and firm beliefs, and I'm telling you right now that what I say to you today, I'll say to you tomorrow, and I'll say to you a year from now. I want to get it done. I want to make Maine great again. With help, we can do this.
Thank you. You've been listening to Q Point.
Follow us at qpointpodcast.com or on your favorite streaming app.
This is where you can get the news from the people who make the news.
Make sure to join us next time.
We hope you tune in.
Q Point Podcast invites guests and candidates from all parties to join the conversation. The views, information, opinions, and comments expressed during this program do not necessarily represent those of the host, Q Point Podcast, associates, affiliates, and CQRE LLC.
Thanks for being a part of the conversation. The most important voices aren't always the loudest ones. They're the voices of everyday people, raising families, running businesses, serving their towns. That's who we want to hear from. Share your ideas with us online, and let's make sure those voices are never left out. Find us on Facebook or on X or at qpointpodcast.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Catch every episode at qpointpodcast.com or wherever you stream. Tune in and tell your friends.